There is a very specific image that comes to mind for a lot of people when they hear the word vegan. They picture militant, unyielding moral crusaders shouting at strangers on the street and actively judging anyone who doesn't share their worldview. That level of intensity creates a massive psychological wall. If the perceived entry fee to eating less meat is achieving absolute perfection and surviving a gauntlet of public judgment, the average person won't try. They see the hostility and immediately back away from making even tiny positive dietary changes. But adopting a meatless diet doesn't require strict purity. The all-or-nothing mentality pushed by the loudest voices in the room is actively doing heavy damage to the exact cause they claim to be protecting. I stumbled into eating meatless almost a decade ago, and it had nothing to do with saving animals. During my freshman year of college, I didn't know how to feed myself. I developed an eating disorder where my daily food intake dropped to a dangerous and low level. After studying nutrition to get my health back on track, I decided to try a vegan diet. For most people, going vegan feels like you're taking away a huge chunk of your normal meals. But because I was eating next to nothing at the time, I used the diet's specific rules as a safe, structured framework to finally learn how to add food back into my routine. Dietary shifts usually start as quiet, deeply personal health interventions. Because they're born out of messy, pragmatic choices rather than grand moral crusades, trying to enforce rigid, external rules on how someone else eats simply doesn't work. Unfortunately, there is a vocal minority in the plant-based community that loves to spread their clean-eating brainworms. They aggressively bash others who don't eat a 100% whole food, unprocessed diet, turning personal food choices into an internal purity test. Here is the truth. A lot of ultra-healthy vegan food tastes terrible. If you force yourself to eat bland, unappealing meals just to satisfy someone else's standard of dietary purity, you are going to be miserable, burn out, and abandon the lifestyle entirely. Eating highly processed vegan junk food is actually an incredibly effective strategy. Having those fun, realistic meals keeps you satisfied, making the choice to avoid meat sustainable for the long haul. You won't wither away on the spot because you ate a processed fake burger. Internal gatekeeping ruins the experience. Cannibalizing people for how they eat their vegetables directly sabotages the broader goal of getting the world to consume fewer animal products. Even if you try to adhere to strict rules, you will fail. We live in a society built almost entirely around consuming meat, which makes accidental slip-ups a statistical guarantee. Take my late-night Denny's DoorDash disaster. I was starving. Everything nearby was closed, and my delivery was delayed by an hour and a half. When the bag finally arrived, I scarfed the food down like a dying hyena, only to realize my stomach was cramping because they got my order wrong, and I had just eaten 3/4 of a regular beef hamburger. Then there's the Texas veggie taco deception. I ordered veggie tacos at a restaurant, assuming the world had progressed. I quickly learned that regional definitions of vegetarian can secretly include meat by default. Or the karaoke chicken nugget incident. In a dark room with flashing lights, a well-meaning friend confidently handed me what they thought was a fried pickle. My taste buds immediately registered that I was chewing a piece of chicken. These accidents are an inevitable feature of living meatless, not a bug. Chaotic environments, hunger, and simple human error prove that maintaining a zero-tolerance dietary rule is practically impossible. Beyond the accidental meat, there is a hidden social weight attached to the vegan label. It begins with the baseline anxiety of constantly having to meticulously scour restaurant menus online before you can agree to go anywhere. It peaks in moments like the Hooters phone call. When my friends wanted to eat there, the menu was vague, forcing me to call and ask an annoyed service worker if they stocked a veggie burger. The intense guilt of demanding special accommodation makes you feel terrible. Food is deeply embedded in how we connect with others. When your diet constantly forces your friends to change their plans to accommodate you, you start feeling like a perpetual burden, even if no one ever complains. Over 8 long years, that invisible social friction compounds. Navigating the world with that rigid label eventually weighs far heavier on your mind than the actual physical restrictions of the diet itself. I eventually reached a point where the friction was too much. After a lot of difficult mental back and forth, I begrudgingly decided to drop the strict vegan label and pivot to vegetarianism, letting dairy and eggs back into my meals. That single compromise shattered the ceiling I was hitting. It instantly expanded my restaurant options, removed the daily social stress, and dramatically improved my overall mental well-being. Modifying a struggling lifestyle to make it functional is a much healthier choice than suffering in silence. Evolving your habits is a braver choice than growing to hate them and giving up entirely just to uphold an arbitrary moral label. This chart shows the total environmental impact of one perfectly strict vegan compared to the massive combined impact of 100 people making flexible reductions. A flexible approach means you don't have to box yourself in. Your diet can shift dynamically back and forth. If you love chicken or burgers too much to give them up, you can keep eating them while cutting out the easier animal products. This is conscious eating. It means making deliberate, manageable tweaks over time, completely removing the intimidation factor. If you have the financial resources, you can focus on how things are sourced. Transitioning to pasture-raised eggs instead of the default industry standards is a powerful way to use your money to avoid supporting cruel practices. It also changes how you view food waste. If you buy chicken nuggets and throw half of them in the trash, you are effectively paying to waste an animal's life for no reason. Saving the leftovers for later or giving them to a friend becomes a moral imperative. You do not have to choose between saving the planet and losing your sanity. Value your food, vote with your money, and do not let the illusion of perfection become the enemy of doing real, measurable good.